Are you on, Steve? Awesome. Thank you. No worries.
Okay, we'll proceed then. So this is the Public Safety Tax Oversight Committee, and the members of the committee that are on are Katie Alexander, Aaron Boatwright, Donna Pittman, Brad Mudd, and myself, Jared Fears, the chairman. Just looking at the, I'm going to just read down through staff that I see. And so I see Chief Halsey, Mark Carrick, Deanna Leap, Doug Short, Chief Short, Heather Tucker, Ken Jarnigan, Mark Randall, Steve Wagner. I see, let's see, that's Ken. I already had Ken, I already had Chief. And that's what I see. So in the way of participants. So with that said, we will ask for a motion to approve the meeting of the minutes from September 23rd, 2020. Would anybody, any of the members like to make that motion?
Brad, I move that we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Donna.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Anybody have any changes or observations they want to make? Okay, if not, then we'll ask for a vote. So I'm going to go in alphabetical order. Let's see, Katie?
That's fine.
Aaron?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Donna?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item up on the agenda is an update from the fire department. So I'm not sure who's making that, whether it's Mark or Chief Short. Looks like Mark is. So Mark,
I'll jump in there.
We'll turn that right over to you.
All right, thank you, Jared. This is the public safety sales tax report. Ours ran it through December, since I was able to get some tax revenue information through that date. Our beginning unassigned fund balance, this is on page 2 of our report, and I'm sure everybody has gotten a copy of our report. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Our 2020 to 2021 fiscal year unassigned fund balance, $1,243,946. Through the end of the year, which would be the second quarter, or through the second quarter of this fiscal year, we've collected $1,087,038. And we have revised our projections for sales tax revenue. Let me find that page. That's bumped up just a little bit. There was a damage claim and some interest in there, so that bumped our number up to $2,018,802. That's our revised estimated revenue. If we turn to page 3, and in interest of time and brevity, I will not read off all of these numbers because you have them in front of you. If you have any questions, you can let us know. If there's a question we don't have an answer for today, we can certainly get it for you offline. I will add that on this report on page 3 and parts of page 4, if you see a single asterisk, in the available budget column, that just means that the number might not be the exact number yet. There may be some unassigned or appropriations that haven't been spent yet. Open encumbrances, unpaid encumbrances. Also, there is a double asterisk, and that is on page 3 towards the bottom. It's other services, 46,302, and that is an additional $6,302 transfer due to some vehicle damage cost, which we had taken care of. And then there's also on page 4 under capital outlay, mobile equipment, account 5404, cost for automobile, fire apparatus, and other items needed to put a vehicle in service. And that's $1,193,783. As most of my reports are, there's always a hidden mistake, and I usually would pay $1 to somebody if they could find the mistake, but some of these are pretty easy to find, so I'm not going to offer that. But in the upcoming projects, I need to add that the aerial apparatus purchase is just about complete. So we've just about wrapped that up. But now we do have additional apparatus that we are purchasing. We have a pumper, and then we have another one that we're asking for an appropriation for. If Chief Short wants to add anything to that, I would certainly invite him to chime in as well. We've had some unprecedented challenges this year because of COVID, and also because of some of our IT challenges that we're still going through. I would also defer to Chief Short on that because he's more intimately aware of some of those things, and I'll kick the ball over to him.
Thank you, Mark. Just to touch base on some of the bigger projects that we're working on right now. Like Mark said, in our 5404 account, which is our capital improvements for vehicles, not only are we waiting on the aerial ladder at the beginning of the year, fiscal year that is, we had budgeted for a pumper, and a couple of months later into November, we did. As I looked at our reserve, we were comfortable from the lack of what we had anticipated from the funding during COVID, and I felt it was necessary to go ahead and get a second pumper ordered at this point. So we asked for that, and through an appropriation of our capital reserve of about $553,000. So similar to the same cost as the first pumper that we did, other than it was coming out of regular than the annual budget, coming out of the reserve fund or the unassigned fund balance. A couple other big items that we're working on right now that we're in this year's budget is we're installing security cameras throughout all the stations, not interior but exterior, just as a level of protection that we probably have not had in the past. And we know we do have some issues that have come up in lately. So we have gone ahead and put that into place, and that's in the process of being installed. That cost was going to be almost at $110,000 to do all 10 stations that we have, which includes a lot more for Station 1 because of all of the different doors that we have. We also are in the middle of, we have 2 vehicles ordered that are for our, one is for our shift commanders, and the other one is one of our chief's vehicles, the service chief's, assistant chief's vehicle, are needing to be replaced. Both of those have been ordered and are due in January. They'll be outfitted for full response and put into service. As we've done that, we've replaced those two vehicles as well as reorganized some of our items throughout the department. This year, the city council approved a lease agreement with Enterprise Auto to be able to lease vehicles on a 1-year basis. And we had an additional vehicle that was to be purchased or replaced this year. But after consultation with our municipal services and city garage, we're actually doing several of our vehicles. But that lease, as we trade in, after we trade everything in, and we also still have the payment of the lease, we will still, at this point, be at a non-cost to the department. And then that reoccurs on a yearly basis. The special leasing that they have for that. All of those vehicles are non-emergency vehicles that are like our inspectors will utilize in our emergency management staff that don't need emergency vehicles, but they do need vehicles to perform their job duties. So there is some that is in process. And again, I had an additional $35,000 budgeted for that, but that now is not going to be needed. It'll be probably reallocated into some more equipment for the 2 pumpers in the aerial that are coming in as well. One other big item that we have is we'll have some radio upgrades, and that we need to finish out some of our upgrades of some of our radios, our mobile radios in the trucks. And then all of our newer radios will also get additional upgrades for future growth and encryption if we need to have that in our process. So those are probably some of the bigger ones. Other than that, a lot of our costs that if you see some of those expenses that were sent out, some of that is even going to possibly be recoverable through PA, through public assistance, because it has to do with COVID.
I will also add that our support staff have all been officing at home, so we've had additional challenges with making sure that we get all of our data that we need and making sure that they're able to operate efficiently on their computers from home. As with that being said, like I said, the documentation that you were sent, there may be a few odds and ends of expenses that have not hit the system yet, but they are not of any significant nature. If there are any, as time goes on, when that information is updated, we can also upload that and make it available to you. And that concludes our report.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions by committee members? All right, if not, I have one. Just a question, Mark, on line item 5210. Is that right that you've only spent $471 on maintenance this year?
Let me look here real quick.
I mean, that just seems...
5210 is a line item that is additional maintenance that's not covered by our city garage. No, that is not correct. Most of our maintenance is done through our general fund budget. These are just some additional things like repairs that necessarily wouldn't be done by the city garage, specialty fire equipment repairs.
Yeah. Ones that would qualify under the sales tax.
Okay. That's
yeah, the example, probably what that repair was probably pump testing that we've done, which our city garage doesn't do our pump testing. That's done by a third party.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Just wanted to...
I have a question.
Go ahead, Katie.
Are you responding to all citizen calls if they call the fire department?
I mean, pretty much, yeah. I mean, if it comes in through 911, we pretty much will respond to everything. Now, if it's a medical call, it goes through a screening process in which that if it's determined it's non-emergency, then AMR is the only one being sent and not us. But other than that, we'll pretty much go on everything.
Thank
And
you.
if we're available, if we have a unit available, we will go. We will be sent.
Okay. Just want to know.
Chief Short, this is Brad Mudd.
Yes,
that
sir.
aerial truck, will that be at Station 1? Is that where that's generally at?
Now, this one will go to Station 2. We purchased Station 1 3 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. Hi, Chief Short. This is Donna Pittman. On Chrysler, it was about a week and a half ago, just between 23rd Street and Lexington. A man was on the ground and one of the fire trucks responded. And of course, I came upon it just as the truck was leaving. The man was still there. If they refuse for treatment, do they then just, what's the process?
Yeah, I mean, if they refuse treatment and they're, we screen them and they're competent, we cannot take them against their will. However, I will tell you in that area, and Chief Halsey probably could confirm this to me, that's where we have a lot of sleepers. People are just walking down, have just left some of the local food pantries or something of that nature, and then just decide to take a nap and wait for the next bus.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Donna. Zach, we have a lot of calls of man down that ends up being, either somebody intoxicated or homeless or just wanting to take a nap. I mean, that happens about every day, multiple times.
Thank you.
Any other questions related to the fire report? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll move.
Thank you, Aaron. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, I got Donna first, so we'll do that. Any other questions before we vote? All right, all those in favor, when I read your name, if you'll indicate your vote. Katie?
Approved.
Aaron?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Donna?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on then to update from the police department. So I'm not sure who's doing that. I'm guessing it's Ken, but I don't know that. So maybe it's Deanna. I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is Chief Halsey. So again, good afternoon, everybody. I'll let Dania start off with the financial points, and we can discuss anything in detail that on those reports that you would like to.
Okay, Dania, before you start, for those of us who can, if you could mute your phone so we can make sure we hear well, and then when you're ready to talk, go ahead and unmute. So.
Hey, Jared.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I should have told you all. I apologize, I can't put video on. If I do, I'll lose connectivity, so that's why I don't have my video on today.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
Okay, can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. So for the police report, page 1 has our standard background information on it. We'll start on page 2. Our beginning fund balance for the fiscal year was $2,534,213. Our sales tax collected through the end of December is at $1,160,332. Investments and other income are at $31,783. So those amounts combined with our beginning fund balance gives us $3,726,328. I put the original projection amount in there just so you can kind of compare, knowing that we're halfway through the year. We're just leaving it at this point because we are expecting some additional decreases in the sales tax revenue with the closure of Penny's and Macy's in particular. Any questions on the revenue?
I have a couple questions. The first question was, who is representing the animal services on this call?
So
That's a separate committee.
Yeah, that's a separate committee. We don't have any responsibility for that piece of it.
Okay, so, but they are being provided income from this sales tax, correct?
No, from the use tax,
Yes.
not the sales tax.
Just want to make sure I understood. That got both my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
Deanna.
So the expenditures for July through December are shown there on page 2 and page 3. And I won't read through each individual line, but you can see what we've started with. The actual expenditures, those are amounts we've actually paid for those items through December and what we have left. Are there any questions on any of those line items? I will say that on a couple items, you'll notice that we are over budget, particularly the portable handheld radios. The reason for that is the move of the equipment for the new hires on the use tax. Since we had to move those over to the sales tax instead, we spent more than we anticipated spending this year.
Is that true for the cameras as well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So you can see our total expenses on page 3 for all of the categories: equipment, facilities, and communications. We have spent $1,198,479. Oh, sorry, wrong number. $1,660,942. And then we have funds that are currently encumbered in the amount of $733,036, and the items are listed below on page 3.
Okay.
So with all of those expenses and the encumbrances, you can see at the bottom of page 3 what our available fund balance is as of December 31st, and that's the $1,332,349.
Okay.
Questions on specific items on that you need some explanation on, or just more about it, or not?
Anybody have any questions?
I have a question for the chief regarding license plate readers. We don't have any as of yet. Is that correct?
We have one. That was that was part of the Hawthorne partnership with us and Hawthorne. We have that. Typically is up there. We had a demo one that is now back to the dealer, so to speak. But and I want to verify, Ken, that's accurate, correct? Yeah, I'm certain that's where we're at now. We're looking at, in the future for additional cameras, license plate reader cameras to put at all of our entries and exit of the cities. And through the foundation, that's going to be more of that money, along with cameras that we can deploy out in problem areas that we can, they're portable. That's something else that we're looking at, but that's probably not going to be able to touch PST money because we don't have any extra money in PST to do
Okay.
But we could, if we had to, we could acquire them through the sales tax, right, Chief?
Well, you could, yes, it's permissible, but we don't have the revenue to do that. Most
Okay.
everything
All
we
right.
spend on PST now is going to be, as you all know, or the new members here, is going to be for the ongoing maintenance, for radios, the computer software, things like that. The technology side, it's pretty much in cars, I should say. That's a big chunk of that as well.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Well, Chief, I guess maybe just a little clarification on that. We do have, over $1 million of balance in there, but you're just saying you don't want to take it down that much lower. Is that what I'm catching? Is that what I'm gathering?
So really the only thing that we have right now, and Dania can speak up or Ken, that's discretionary whatsoever will be the amount of that we spend on vehicles. Because unfortunately, if we're involved in an accident and say the people do not have insurance, we're out of that money. So that can fluctuate. And with the number of cars in our fleet, we're constantly trying to balance that. But other than that, everything is basically being paid throughout the year for all these ongoing maintenance costs for technology.
Yeah, unfortunately, we average about 5 to 10 totals on vehicles a year. And unfortunately, most of those, the people who hit us do not have insurance. So we end up eating that cost most of the time.
Go
I
ahead,
have a
Katie.
question on that. Can you tell me what the strategy is to reduce the number of individuals that choose to drive without insurance in the city limits?
That's going to be a legislative
That would
issue.
reduce your risk.
Yeah,
How would that be legislative? They're already not supposed to drive around without insurance.
well, there's a lot of different angles. The city is pushing legislative on Senate Bill 5 to change that to hold people more accountable. But I will tell you, there is states like Texas, I believe, if you don't have insurance, they will take your vehicle and sell it. So there's different extremes throughout the different states. But again, that's going to be more of the legislative side of things that the city is continually working with the lobbyists to get changed because of that reason.
Well, and until that happens, just simply enforcing the people that choose not to get license plates frequently will not have insurance, correct?
Yeah, it could be anybody, but
So obviously, if they don't have a legitimate paper tag, then enforcement could occur that could make people choose to go somewhere else and drive.
we write a lot of tickets for no insurance.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's really your recourse,
And I can
isn't it?
appreciate that, but I'm really concerned if we're looking at 10 accidents a year involving city vehicles. It seems as if there's a misunderstanding.
We'll tell you, our risk management group that the city has now is doing really good work on following up on, for example, city property that's damaged, say it's a fence or anything like. They are going after these people more than I've ever known. So they are doing that and getting recouped on some of that money when people don't have insurance. So that is helping, but it's not the complete answer though either.
And I understand these are difficult times to enforce things that often will fall upon the poor, and I do understand that. So it makes you very unpopular. but yet on the other side of things, that seems terribly expensive. And also it makes me wonder, how often are the cars moving to be in a situation to have an accident? That I see you look perplexed, Ms. Boatwright. What I mean is, how often are they engaged in city activity during business hours if people are working from home?
Officers are not. They're out on the road every day, 24/7, 365.
But theoretically, we should see a drop this year.
Drop in.
Just something to think about. I guess we'll see at the end of the year when you tally it up.
So I guess maybe here's a question, Chief, is if someone hits one of our police cars and that those funds then are expended from the sales tax fund to purchase a new vehicle, but then the funds are recovered from the person who hit the vehicle, then do those funds go back into the sales tax revenue?
Yes, absolutely.
They would be reimbursed in there, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. So.
Yeah, and let me also point out, it's not just a civilian that hits us. Some of those are our faults. I mean,
yeah,
we have a disciplinary system that we use if you get city property or if you're negligent in a wreck.
Sure.
I mean, some of those are going to be, on us as well.
And I think part of it too, I would think, would also be having the cooperation of the Jackson County prosecutor. And if they're not willing to do what's necessary to help you, that's an issue too. Just
okay.
saying.
Any other questions?
Chief, sure.
Donna?
Chief, hi. Yes, you or Ken. Can you give us any more info and relationship to hiring of officers? Could you maybe tell us a little more about if there's any changes?
I can, if you want. Yeah, it's up to you. I can do that now, or once we get to the use tax, I can give you an update on.
I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll just wait on that till we get to the use tax. Anything else on the sales tax?
This is Brad Mudd, Chief. Where are we on body cam? And I'm like Donna. I'm not sure if this is use or sales that's going to be coming out of. On body cameras.
We're looking at that in the future. That's going to be a partnership amongst a couple different entities. Number one would be the city, because we're going to have additional staffing. But we are looking at the foundation that we now have. They're a separate entity. They have a board of directors. The idea would be they would fund, all or a majority or some of the technologies that we need. That is definitely the foundation just got started here. It's going very well, but that's going to be the long-term goal, is that foundation will help support the, technology, cameras, license plate readers, things like that, to help reduce crime and disorder, if that answers your question.
Okay, yeah, so there's another foundation. So I have some connections with VFW organizations, and it seems like Sugar Creek VFW gave to Chief Soul, and them got some of theirs through donations from that. So yeah, I got you then.
Retired Chief Gary George, been in law enforcement for a long time. He is, I don't know what you want to call it, chairperson of that, but we have community members that are on the board as well.
Okay. Thank you that sounds great. So thank you, Chief.
Okay, any other questions on the sales tax? All right. If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the quarterly report on sales tax from the police department.
I move we accept. This is Brad Mudd.
Okay, Brad, thank you. We have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, that's Donna. Donna, thank you. All right, any last questions for that? All right, if not, then I'll call the roll. Katie?
Be fine.
Aaron?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And Donna?
Yes.
Okay, that's approved then. All right, let's move forward with the use tax report then.
Nia, do you want to start off that one as
Yes, I can start. Okay, so page 1 and the top of page 2 is just background information on the use tax itself. For the revenue, the beginning fund balance was $667,093. The finance department for the city made an adjustment to the year-end balance, adding $185,000 to that. That was basically to make the auditors happy. They had to indicate an estimate of what they anticipated they would receive for June. So that brought our revised beginning fund balance to $852,093. Tax collected through the end of December is at $1,459,700. With interest investment earnings of $34.20, we are at, since inception, $2,315,213. Obviously, we're doing really, really well in the use tax. There's a note there at the bottom of page 2 that indicates, it's a reminder that Animal Services was to receive half of the tax until they reached $750,000. That was reached in November. So now the use tax is going to the police department at 100% until we reach the $3 million amount. And then the use tax will waterfall to the other city funds.
Okay, Deanne, I have a question on that part of it. And I understand the concept, and this may be a Mark Randall question, I'm not sure, but the question really that I have is that $3 million a year, or is that a total of $3 million, after which you reach $3 million, then anything in addition waterfalls? I just want to I'm trying to understand if it's an annual expense or if it's an ongoing thing.
Yes, every year it'll be $750,000 go to the Animal Services, and then the rest will go to police to hire officers. Once that gets to about $3.5 million, then it will waterfall to the other sales tax funds, and that's every year. So the current year, it's projected at the rate it's going now that it's expected that it'll waterfall, that it will actually collect more than $4 million, more than, I think it's 4.4. And so it will waterfall to all the sales tax funds, including the public safety sales tax funds. So if it continues the projections that it's looking like now, I think that they're projecting maybe $36,000 additional revenue might waterfall to the two public safety sales tax funds. But the year is, it isn't over yet, so we'll just have to see how it actually plays out.
And the part that I was trying to understand, Mark, was that when it goes to the following year and you've got, then $3 million in there for this year, then does that mean that everything for the following year goes waterfalls, or does then you get another $3 million for the second year? I mean, I know there's going to be expenses coming out too, so I'm just trying to understand how that will work.
Yeah, it would be an annual reappropriation of the annual revenues of the use tax.
So in the event we're not able to hire police officers as, I mean, I know we're trying to, and I know Chief's going to talk about that in a minute, but, to the degree that we then are trying to hire, additional officers, and we're not able to do that, then that could theoretically, get up to $6-7 million. Is that right? Is that?
Yeah. Yes, it will continue to accumulate to the benefit of the police department for the recruiting. It's going to be restricted for that purpose, but it'll continue to be allocated that way. The $750 every year will go to animal services, and then the rest will go to police until we get to that waterfall point. But yeah, if it can't be spent, it'll just accumulate until such time as we can get those officers hired. So I know they're doing everything they can to try to recruit officers. That's the interesting thing. We finally now do have source of revenue, and we just need to get some people hired.
Right. Understand. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Question. What is the definition of a year, date-wise?
I'm sorry, what's that?
January 1st to, what is the definition of a year? January 1st, July the 1st, September the 1st?
Well, if we're looking at our budget, we'd be going on July 1st. So it'd be just yeah. So we do our annual budget. So we come out July 1st, we would be figuring on how to appropriate that money. But then once we actually get into the year, if it ends up being more, we'll start waterfalling to those other funds in the middle of that budget year, and we'll just have to make budget adjustments to reflect additional revenue.
Okay.
So does that mean animal services will see an increased adjustment?
No, animal services gets the $750. Yeah.
Just thinking so many people in Independence really need to adopt pets, especially dogs, for their safety. Be good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you.
Okay, Deanna, go ahead. I cut you off there, so I'll let you go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. So we were done with page 2, I believe. Page 3, at the very top, you can see the individuals that we've actually hired under the use tax. 2 of them have already moved on. So we're down to 4 that are still being funded through the tax. You can see the expenses for each of them down below. Total personnel costs for all of the individuals that have been under the use tax to date. Those are at $77,420. There is an amount still showing for equipment in there. This is just a straggler from all of the orders we had earlier in the year before we were told not to use the use tax for equipment. It's one that's going to require a journal entry from the finance department, and that just hasn't happened yet, but we should see that gone by the next quarterly report. The total expenses charged to the use tax is at $79,129.56. There at the very bottom, you can see our overall available fund balance is $2,236,084.
Okay. Chief, I think now would be a good time to talk about the hiring process.
Let me see if I'm smart enough to share my screen to kind of go through our vacancies real quick. So you're going to have to let me know if you can see my screen at this point.
Not yet. Oh, there it comes. Yes, there we go.
You still see it?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just go through this real quick. This is a report that Sergeant Freeman and our training unit does frequently to kind of go through this. The police officer's current vacancies is 15. We have given 2 conditional offers, which means as long as they can pass everything in the background, that, you know, they will be hired. These other positions are not related to the sales tax, but we have 15. I believe let me make sure there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 16 in current phases of training. 2 of those, the FTO means field training. So when they graduate from the academy, or if they're a certified officer that we hired, they go through the FTO, the field training program, before they're released on their own. As you can see, we have several in the academy. We have numerous going to the academy, which is great news. Unfortunately, you're looking at about a year. The academy is 6 months. The FTO program could be about 6 months. So you're looking at a year before that officer is able to, he or she is able to, you know, respond to calls by themselves. For that reason of the 2 different trainings that they are receiving, if that makes sense at all. Yeah. We had today. We also had testing today. I believe 11 showed up. We're doing testing quite a bit, so it's not like when you say 11, that's 11 that we actually invited. When we get these packets, people are not accepted for a number of reasons. One would be recent or excessive drug use. There's just a lot of different reasons. They didn't fill out the application properly, but most of it's going to be recent drug use or excessive drug use or criminal activity, which we would not hire. Our standards are pretty high. We are not going to lower those standards even with the vacancies that we have, because that's not going to serve the city, the police department, or the community in the long run if you get the wrong people in those positions. So, you know, we've had, well, let me go back to the 2 that were released that Dania spoke about in the academy. One was essentially terminated. The other one just said that they could not do this job, which I understand and respect. At least they didn't, you know, go through the whole academy, but they just said it was more than what they thought, and they just didn't want to do it. We've had a lot of officers that were close to retirement or at retirement age, quite frankly, have retired because of everything going on throughout the nation. And, you know, that's just the bottom line. I don't know how else to say it. They're just like, I'm done. We've had quite a few medical retirements. Here recently, we got another one coming up. They were, you know, most of them are going to either be injured on a job. Some of those are going to be non-work related medical disabilities that they're retiring because of that. So if you have any more specific questions, I'll be more than happy. Let me see if there's anything else here. Goes through our eligibility list and the new employees since the last report. Okay, I was speaking about why. Let me go down here to show you. So like on this one posting, we have 55 individuals applied online. 48 personal information packets were actually received. Down here, you see why they were not allowed to continue our process. 13 drug use, 5 poor work histories, 3 inaccurate or incomplete applications, or 2 issues identified during a background investigation. You can read it yourself, but so yeah, even though it's tough, you know, for everybody to hire officers right now across the country.
23.
The concern that, you know, we have is we have a lot of people that are within 3 years of retirement, and staying ahead of this is going to be very difficult to get people to do this job. So if you have any specific questions, please ask.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on the use tax report?
I have some questions on the hiring. I gave Councilman Hobart a list of places that you can recruit from, where people are fairly well pre-screened through various programs that they go through, like returning veterans and individuals with disabilities that wouldn't preclude them from being able to do the functional job tasks necessary or having the emotional stability necessary to be in the position of responsibility. How has that been going?
Would you give that to Mr. Hobart? I may not even be familiar that it came across the street, to be very honest with you. I mean, we have 306 employees, so maybe that's something we can talk about tomorrow when we meet, if that's okay.
Yeah, that would be fine. That gives me a heads up so I can put that information together to help you.
Okay, great.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if there's not any other questions, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the use tax report.
I'll move.
Okay, is that Aaron?
Yes.
I think. Okay, all right, Aaron,
Yeah.
thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second Brad Mudd.
Okay, Brad, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Any last questions? If not, I'll call the roll. Katie,
All good.
Aaron,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
and Donna? Donna still there?
Sorry. Yes,
Okay, thank you, Donna. All right.
you're welcome.
Okay, well then that report is approved as well. So that brings us up to looking at a date for our next meeting. Heather, do you have anything that you have kind of looked at in the way of calendar?
Sure. We actually had to schedule these all the way through June since
Oh,
I have
that's
to
right.
get
We
them
did,
on a
didn't we?
calendar. So it's already been scheduled for March 24th.
Right. Okay, yes, I do have that on my calendar. Thank you.
And then I don't know how the council will do it in April, but we would be due for a presentation in April at a study session. I don't know which study session. There's two that month, either April 12th or April 26th. I haven't heard a date selection for a presentation yet.
Okay. That should be fine.
I'm sorry.
Go
Now,
ahead,
Jared, will you make the presentation at the study session? I mean, would you like us to be there also, or?
Well, I made the last couple. You're welcome to come if you're available. And if you're not, that's okay. I'll intend to be there unless if I have a conflict, I'll ask for a replacement, but I'll know by the March meeting if there's any sort of conflict.
Okay,
So,
I'm retired, so yeah, if you need to fill in or whatever, yeah, I'd be glad to do it if need
Okay.
be. So.
all right, thank you.
Chief Halsey, are you still on?
I think he's there. Go ahead, Brad. I think he heard you.
Chief, I've got a matter a citizen addressed me about. I just wonder, can I just, on the city directory, do you have a phone? Is your office phone there where I can give you just like 5 minutes of your time?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me give you my cell phone number. That's usually the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay, Chief.
It's 816-564-5363.
564, and what was the last four?
5373.
Okay, Chief. Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
Okay, unless anyone has any further business, I think we're ready to adjourn.
All right.
All right. I don't think we need a motion to adjourn, do we? Somebody help me with the parliamentary side of it.
Yeah, I believe you do.
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Technically.
Okay, thank you, Mark. All right, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Yeah, Seconded, Brad.
Aaron, and seconded by Brad, and so let's just, we got to call the list since we're on the video here. So Katie, are you ready to adjourn?
Sure enough.
All right, Aaron.
Yes.
And Brad.
Yes.
And Donna.
Yes.
All right, everyone. We're adjourned, and thank you for your time and your availability, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody on March 24th.
Okay.
And someday,
Have a great day.
maybe we'll again be in person. That would be nice.
2022, can't wait.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, thank you.